Hello and welcome to Gamesmiths. This week I decided to do a game jam because I was starting to get tired of working on the game Infantstein. It's no longer really working for me and I think I'm starting to get quite burnt out with it. The jams I ended up deciding to join were Swap Jam, Try Jam, Mini Jam and Solo Dev by Captain Coda. I ended up joining 4 of them because I wanted to challenge myself as well as just give myself a little bit more to work with, and all the themes seemed to work quite well. The themes for these jams were current, underground, build during the day and defend at night, and 2-button controls. These all seemed to work quite well for me, so I ended up working with all 4 of them. In order to try and help myself as I go through the game and all that, I ended up writing a short story and background for each theme. For current, the character and story are going to be tech-centered. You'll be playing as an old digger bot that's last order was to protect and charge your master's forge, while you try to keep yourself charged as well. It has been many years and there are now much newer model robots that are trying to take the forge for themselves. Underground. The story is going to take place in a hidden underground forge that enemy robots are trying to find and take over for themselves. As a digger robot, you'll be digging holes underground to act as pitfalls for your enemies to fall into, and use their parts to maintain the forge. To protect your home, you have started participating in underground trading the scraps from other robots to upgrade yourself. Build during the day and defend at night. There will be a day and night function for you to end the day and start the night, but don't rush things. You only have energy to dig and buy upgrades during the day. When the night comes, so will your enemies. You must try and trick your enemies into falling into holes you dug during the day, as well as taking parts from robots that have fallen into holes and putting them into the forge so you don't run out of power before the morning comes. 2-button controls. In the game you will be playing as a very old digger robot doing a task it was not built for. As a result, you'll have to manually change what task you are doing by changing task nodes. Input 1 will oversee all basic actions, such as digging, pickup, drop, and movement, while Input 2 will oversee all interactions, such as interacting with a merchant and delivering scraps to the forge. First thing I did when I started making the game was add a player into the scene, getting his player movements as well as a camera to follow him. Now that there's a player in the scene, let's add a background. It's starting to look a little empty. Boom! Now we've got a level to play in. Let's just add an edge collider so the player can't walk outside the map and that should work. Nope, he's apparently the Flash, just phasing through walls because of course he can. I have no idea how to fix this, so I'm not going to. The joys of being an indie. With that, I think it's about time my digger robot starts to dig. So I whipped up a digging script so you can dig small holes around you that will destroy enemies on collision, as well as adding a small health script to the hole, so that when too many enemies fall in them, they'll be destroyed. I also made it so the player can't move when they are digging, and arranged around them so the player can't dig too far away from them. This also added an upgrade option, so you can increase the health of the holes, so more enemies can fall in them before they get destroyed. Next thing on the to-do list is enemies. I've never made enemies that have a priority target like the forge that will still target the player when they get too close. So I ended up deciding to use Unity's NavMesh agent. It was surprisingly simple to get one of the best enemy AIs I've ever made up and working. Next was the spawner, and yeah, coroutines. How do work? I had enemies spawning in by the thousands. I was this close to killing my poor computer with just how many enemies the game was spawning in, to the point I almost couldn't stop the game because it was so laggy. Are we safe now? I mean, of course we are. I've never made something that didn't work out. Many attempts later, and we finally had something that was working perfectly. Now that the enemy spawner is working, let's break it all over again by adding a day and night cycle into the game so you can only dig during the day and enemies are only spawned at night. This broke everything, even more than I thought it would, because it kept breaking things that hadn't even been made yet. Like, come on! It clashed with script after script that came after it. The merchant wasn't spawning when I added him in, the buttons weren't in the right position when they reappeared, and above all else, null references. Every time I deactivated something, a new null reference was activated and the whole game tried to kill itself. As soon as I had all of that fixed, the game was pretty much done, and so was my time. With 2 hours left, I quickly made the enemies drop scrap on death, and scrap counter, and a single upgrade to the shop, so people can see where I was going with the game. With 1 hour left before the first deadline, my internet went down and I could not submit the game. Not knowing when it was going to come back, and it being close to 1 in the morning, I climbed into bed ready for this all to end, not being able to submit the game for the jam. But with 20 minutes till submission, the internet came back on. Jumping out of bed like a madman, I ran to submit my game, and with only 11 minutes left, the game was submitted. This was one of the closest I've ever come to not making a deadline for a game jam. I had so much fun working on this game that I decided this was the next game I was going to work on. So I'm giving myself a deadline of 1 month to get this game to completion and get it out for the public for everyone to play. Thank you all very much for watching.